everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. Today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees Bob Marley One Love continuing to be at the #1 spot, having a pretty strong hold, dropping only 32% from its opening week. Remembering also that it had an extended opening weekend, and so just interesting that it's continuing to hold as well as it is. All the while, you have new releases from the likes of Crunchyroll with Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yabi, to the Hashira Training. Not someone who has been very familiar with Demon Slayer, but I know that it has been doing well anytime a Demon Slayer film has come out since I've been covering it. Madam Web only seeing projected a 59% drop, maybe even in the 60% range, which for the movie that it is quite surprising, but then again, lack of competition, other things could easily be a reason why. Also, just mere curiosity from people who said, how could a movie be as bad as everyone's saying that it is? Oh, sure enough, it actually is. Maybe it's becoming one of those meme movies because of how terrible it actually is, but hey, 59% drop, not terrible. But based off of the budget, which was originally said to be $80 million, now is said to be around $100 million, it's still projected to be a massive, massive flop. And you also have new releases from Lionsgate Kingdom Story Company with Ordinary Angels, another Christian film, and then Drive Away Dolls from Focus Features, one of the Coen brothers films. And yeah, that film not expected to do a whole lot, but we don't have budgets on those other two films. And so because of that, hard to really project exactly where those films will stand after their opening weekend unless we start to get some actual reported numbers. Before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button, Aussie, smash the rumble button as well, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So, of course, we're over here at Box Office Pro, and right now the the second weekend for Bob Marley is expected to once again lead to a #1 release, dropping only 32%. It is right now projected to make around $19.4 million, and so we're still looking at a very low weekend. A lot of this will probably end up changing next weekend as we will have Dune Part 2 coming out, and there's a lot of hype around that film doing a lot better than a lot of these previous releases. It's set to be basically the biggest release that we've had so far going into 2024, and it's interesting that it's going to take us all the way until March for that to happen. It says a lot about current state of Hollywood and other things, but hey, Bob Marley One Love gonna get that #1 spot once again. Right now it seems to be tracking pretty well. Obviously we'll have a full update on this coming weekend doing our box office breakdown, but it's looking like the film maybe has a chance of being able to actually make its money back, make a little bit of profit. As of the last update, the film was around $54 million in the red at making around $84 million, so it's going to be able to easily cross $100 million worldwide by the end of this weekend, and I suspect that because of that, its break even being roughly $175, I think it's definitely within the cards for this film be able to actually do that, though it may not be making all that much profit. And this is kind of the current state of Hollywood, where you have a lot of films that have either smaller budgets, moderately sized budgets, that just are not able to make their money back because they're just not making that much of a splash. But again, I think Bob Marley right now, even though I've not heard amazing things about the film, might be able to do just enough to be able to justify its own existence financially. Demon Slayer, this new film from Crunchyroll, again based off of the anime series, which I believe is also based off of the manga series. This is something where I've covered at least one other Demon Slayer film, and that film did very well, especially for the domestic market. We've already seen a lot of Japanese films do very well here. We had Boy and the Heron do quite well in its opening weekend. We, of course, also had Godzilla -1 as a Japanese release, right, getting released here with English subtitles, also doing much better than what you would typically see. So I think Demon Slayer is going to be in a very good position. A lot of people who are fans of Demon Slayer here in the United States. So again, #2 spot there, very strong for that. Coming to the #3 spot is Madam Web, $6.3 million, and it will only be at $35.5 million domestically. So even though it's only dropping about 60%, I imagine you're going to have a much starker drop-off next weekend when Dune Part 2 comes out, as I think that's going to just gobble up most of the box office. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw some pretty massive drops from most of these films, especially where you might see some demographic sharing. But when it comes to Madam Web, it is still in a very, very, large amount of trouble. Again, going over here to the charting, again, 84 million, that would be way too generous. $54 million as of right now is what has been reported as this film having made 0.5 times its budget, which remember has been updated to have cost roughly around $100 million when all is said and done. That means a break even somewhere between $250 and $300 million, and it's just not going to happen for this movie. And hey, couldn't happen to a nicer franchise, could not happen to a nicer movie, because this movie is just flat garbage. There's really no defending it at this point. And hey, the numbers are absolutely reflecting that at this point. Sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes there's films that are really bad that get money, and luckily, more times than anything else, there are bad films that end up losing money. Madam Web is in that category, so I think we can pretty much predict right now it's going to be a guaranteed box office flop. Ordinary Angels, this is another film. Hilary Swank starring in this film. It's set to be kind of one of these Christian faith-based films from what I'm gathering, and expected to have a $5.5 million opening. So if the film cost only $5 to $10 million, this could be a very strong sign, a very strong start, but we don't have an official budget yet, so we will have to wait and see. Migration, still hanging around. Again, this is that movie that went up in percentage last weekend, and now it's only going down 19%, just to show you how strong this film has been performing down the stretch. So very impressive numbers here for Migration, and we're going to continue to see them add to their overall profits. Argyle dropping 38%, even though this film is seeing decent-sized drops, it just cost way too much. It just, again, they spent $200 million to be able to put this movie out in theaters to get the rights to this movie, and it's just not paying itself back in any way. So Argyle still set to be a massive flop for Apple. Wonka, 23% drop. So again, this and Migration have been around since Christmas time. Wonka being out even a bit longer, and so the fact that they're still in the top 10, the fact that they're still in the discussion here is still darn impressive. Wonka well over $200 million at this point in time. And then you get to a new release, Drive-Away Dolls, right? $2.3 million right now, and so this is another movie where we don't have the budget for it, but I imagine that probably it's a moderately sized budget. It's a Coen brothers, or rather it's one of the Coen brothers movies, and the trailer definitely to me seems like, okay, there's the potential for there to be some good stuff there, but in the modern state of Hollywood, it also could potentially go in the more political direction. So $2.3 million, even on a small budget, is not really where you want to go, not really where you want to start. This film would have to have some amazing word of mouth, some amazing legs if it was going to hope to make any money back, even if it only costs around $10 million. So right now, $2.3 million is not looking like a great opening for that. Beekeeper, I finally saw the film, by the way. I thought it was rad. I had a lot of fun with it. It's not the best film out there. There's a lot of issues with it, of course. It's kind of like a derivative version of John Wick in many ways with Beekeepers. I think a lot of people were using that example in the comments before, but the fact is it was still also a lot of fun. But as I mentioned previously, as of the recording of this video, still there's no confirmed budget. Right now, it's only a, kind of this weird source being used of, hey, you know what? The film and Mean Girls cost around $40 million. It's like, yeah, well, Mean Girls, we actually have official reporting on. You're kind of just throwing Beekeeper in, so we don't really know yet. And so that's why, as I said previously, if it did cost $40 million, it's made money. It's making a little bit of profit, just not the biggest, amount of money in the world. And I try to make clear saying I'm not trying to attack the movie or saying the movie's bad, because I actually really enjoy the movie. I'm just trying to talk about the movie and the numbers as honestly as I can. So even though it is, again, looking like, if that budget is true, like it made money, still not as good as it absolutely could have been, and something that, again, not the kind of money that a movie like this typically in the past would have made. And so that's, again, kind of the point I'm trying to make with that. And then The Chosen dropping 56%. But again, this is the fourth to sixth episodes of The Chosen series being shown in theaters. And this is, again, has been performing very well, especially for the fact that they are going to be making money on this based on who is, getting the rights to distribute the series, and based on the fact that this is kind of almost like extra money for them in many ways. And so $7.4 million for a show like this being shown in theaters is definitely a good thing. As you can see over on Deadline, right, it says here, the second weekend of Sony Madam's Web could possibly ease 55% for $6.8 million. How the heck is that? This is once again showing why, when you look at the legacy media, when you look at the shill box office media, even when they have some really good takes, some very interesting takes at that, they still are missing the mark. They still don't quite fully understand what is happening in Hollywood. And there's why, where sometimes when you use the standards that they are using, it ends up just falling apart. Because what he's saying is that because the word of mouth on Madam Web has been so bad, and because his precious cinema score, right? That's the standard by which he lives his life. His cinema score says they give it a C+. That means that the film should be seeing massive drops. This film should be seeing, insane levels of drop, and it's not. Because, again, he's trying to argue in a system that just does not work. Right? The fact still remains that when it comes to a film like Madam Web, yes, the cinema score was terrible, but cinema score is a garbage tier score. It does not really reflect exactly what has always been pushed to. Again, shout out to Matthew Cadish, who always talked about saying, no, like, this is not talking about people who are going to see the movie and then coming out giving it their score. It's basically people coming out saying how the marketing for the film was, how effective they thought the marketing was for the film, and things like that. And so it's a very different metric. It's a very different number than what is being indicated when they say it's a C+, right? And talking about the ability to predict drops and increases based off of that number. It's quite a silly metric. So what we know from Madam Web is that the movie's just bad. it's just a bad film, right? And the film is not doing well, right? Even if it doesn't drop in the 60%, you're still dropping 55%, in a best case scenario, I think, 55% from the worst the worst Marvel, Sony related film drop in history. Right, you're still talking about, in the modern era, the worst box office that you've ever seen from any of these films that are anyway associated with Marvel characters. And so I think that you have to take that into account. And then when you do, you realize, yes, this movie is just garbage tier. This film's box office is garbage tier. And the more we find out about the box office, the more we find out about the budgets, right? For all we know, we'll find out next time, oh yeah, it actually costs a little bit more than that. It's just not good at all for this series. But those are the numbers currently as they stand right now. Madam Web set to be a massive box office flop officially after this weekend. Bob Marley has the chance to be able to cut this. Again, I would not be surprised if we start to get into the 20s, if not the teens, as far as, where its current loss and gain is. And if it gets to that point, I think there's a very strong chance for it to make its money back. But of course, the big elephant in the room is going to be Dune, because Dune is something that I think has a good chance of being able to gobble up most of the box office. And when you take into account that things like Ballerina, which was one of my most anticipated films of the year, being pushed back to 2025, box office is going to be in a lot of trouble for quite a bit. And also my soul just, died slightly when I heard that news, because obviously there's more important things in the world, but still, I was looking forward to Ballerina, but apparently I can't always get what I want. But these are the numbers as they stand. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that we're going to see some amazing numbers from Bob Marley, Demon Slayer punching above its weight, Madam Web going to shock the world, getting somehow amazing drops? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you like this video, smash that like button. A lot of the fire button, I see you smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a very special shout out to all of my February Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off with my Patreon supporters of Father Luca Illich, Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel, Eagle Rider, and Miss Mountain Muses, check out her YouTube channel by the same name. Also to my Subscribestar peeps, Matt317, check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Mr. Roy, and ZK-Man, check him out over at xtheboundaries.co. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link in the video description below, where you can access things like podcast episodes that I do special for my members. I also do, of course, the verbal shoutouts, also the listed shoutouts, and a bunch of other things, including giveaways, access to a giveaways channel on my Discord, giving away Blu-rays and 4Ks. I've fallen behind a little bit, but I'm going to easily make that up for the month of February, so now is a great time to join, to get access to that page. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. A blessed Lent, which starts in just a couple of days. And as always, God bless.